Framing innovation as a process. We're going to look at ways in which you can think about different innovation processes and how you can think about the ways in which each of them has a series of process steps. So we're going to look at process as a series of steps. And if you can think about a process in a very generic way, think about it as a series of steps. And you can also recognize that people do play roles. And we've talked about roles in the innovation process. And for every step in the process, there's typically a role for somebody playing that process role. And processes can be systematically modeled, and they produce results and effects. And so we're going to look at results and effects and consequences of each of the steps in the process. And one thing about innovation processes, it's been studied by many different disciplines. It's been studied by business, by engineering, by history, by sociologists, by communication specialists, many different disciplines in the world of academia and the world of business have looked at the innovation process. And so we're going to try and get some generic looks at the innovation process as a series of steps. We're going to look at 4 different ways. So the first way is to think about the 4 different ways that, that this happens. There is new product development, which is a very standard way of looking at innovation. Most of the innovations we're familiar with are really part of new product innovations. We're looking at innovation as new technology. We'll look at innovation as a management improvement. That's a process improvement that happens in organizations. And we can also look at innovation as a service improvement. This is something that is as a soft offering of organizations that is provided to customers in the form of a service. And what we are going to look at is ways in which each of these forms of innovation can be translated as a series of generic steps. So let's start. The new product development path is one that we're most familiar with. Most of the things that we see as new innovations are in the form of new products. And so this is the series of steps that typically happens in an organization, a corporation, Procter & Gamble, General Motors, any big organization that triggers their innovation with a strategic planning process or a discovery of an opportunity. And then there is an allocation of resources behind that idea, and they generate a product concept, and then they test its technical feasibility. And the next step is to develop and refine that product, and then they prepare the product for manufacture, and then they do a full-scale production of the product, and then they position it in the marketplace, and then they support its operation and its function and its ongoing improvement, and they solve problems for it. So this is the path of a new product development. So let's think about ways in which that might reveal itself to you as a customer. So think about some examples of new product development that have come into the marketplace in the last year. And imagine the path that those products took to get to the marketplace, and think about how that level of market demand that has affected the innovation process made a difference to how fast it came into the marketplace or how slow it came into the marketplace, how easily it was accepted. All of these things tend to have forces that trigger them. And so you can think about what affects the speed of development and the speed of the process steps that go into new product development. A second form of innovation process is a new technology path. And so this is where a new technology triggers an innovation. And the first step is usually a recognition of some breakthrough technology or some user need that a technology can respond to. And from there, there is a formulation of an application idea, and this is usually the process of what we would call technology push, where the idea is discovered, and then there's an effort to push it out into the marketplace. And in that process, the company has to resolve any technology problem and translate the idea into some form of technology solution where the technology is applied. And then there's a development step where there is a refinement of the solution, and then the solution is ultimately adopted by users in the marketplace. So thinking about that process, think about what are some examples of new technology products that have come into the marketplace in the last year. New technology products that might have to do with transportation, automobiles, possibly cellular phones, possibly computer applications. Those are all technology-driven, innovative ideas that get translated into new products and new services. So ask yourself, how did technology breakthroughs enable a new innovation? Did it actually cause something dramatic to happen? And where did the technology originate? Did it originate by somebody discovering it? Did it originate through a research and development activity inside of an organization? And how might this have shaped the innovation process? So if you think about these things, you'll begin to get a feel for the way in which technology works its way through the innovation process. A third type of technology is a management practice process. And so we're going to look at the management practice path. This is where a management practice is an innovation inside of an organization usually. And so when there is a problem, people in the organization recognize that needs and opportunities often within the organizational environment suggest that something needs to be solved, something needs to be improved, something needs to be fixed. And so typically there's a generation of idea for addressing that need. And the idea is tested for its feasibility. And one of the unique things that happens about a management practice is that because it's inside of an organization, it has to be accepted by people who are operating inside the organization. Employees, workers, managers, everybody has to accept that idea. And so a step that's involved in this process is convincing employees as users about the value of the idea. And often you have to overcome resistance to get the idea accepted. And once it gets accepted, it gets adopted and applied. So here are some thought questions about that type of innovation. What are some examples of emergent innovation practices, management practices, that have changed the way companies operate and compete? Just-in-time inventory is a classic example of one that emerged because it was an attempt to overcome shortfalls in inventory and time delays in inventory. And so you can ask yourself, what were the forces that triggered these companies to innovate that management practice, or any management practice? And how might these forces have influenced the management process? Sometimes, because of competitive forces, it gets implemented very quickly. Sometimes it's latent and it happens very slowly, and where a company is the only competing position in the marketplace, it can be very slow to emerge. So sometimes management practice innovations happen very quickly, and sometimes they happen very slowly, depending on how needy and important that innovation is for the company. So here's a fourth example of an innovation process, and it's a service innovation. And it's different than a product innovation in the sense that a service innovation is providing something that helps people do something better, and it's providing a service as opposed to a product. And so the initial step in that process is the discovery or recognition of some operational problem, or usually an inefficiency that can be solved with some service effort. And so inside an organization, there is a generation of some alternative solutions or approaches, and testing of the feasibility of the idea, and testing for customer acceptance. This is a big factor in service innovations, because without feedback and understanding of the acceptance and acceptability of the service innovation by customers, it's really not going to go anywhere. And so you get buy-in from both employees and customers, because the employees are the ones who have to deliver the service, and the customers are the ones who have to accept that service. And so ultimately you implement that service innovation. And so here are some thought questions around that issue. What are some examples of service innovations you've experienced as a customer? And you're all customers, and you all experience these service experiences, and some of them are very innovative. And so what innovations have happened in Let's say purchasing an airline ticket, purchasing a theater ticket, or purchasing something online from Amazon.com or any other online vendor. And so there you are encountering ways in which companies are constantly seeking ways to improve their service innovations. So you might ask yourself, what forces triggered the need to make that improvement? And how would those forces, which can be seen as, let's say, noise in the system, customer feedback, how can that be recognized as the basis for an innovation, a service innovation? So here we have, after looking at all four of these types of innovation processes, we have a series of generic steps in the innovation cycle. And we can break them down into these steps. There is a generic step of scanning and recognizing the need or opportunity for an innovation, the actual recognition that that data from scanning translates into a potential need or opportunity. The ideation is the translation of the need or opportunity into an idea for an innovation. Concept development is the process step that moves it beyond the idea stage into a formulated concept for what the innovation might be. Prototyping is a way of translating that concept into something physical or virtual that can actually be simulated as an innovation idea. Testing and evaluation is where the idea, which becomes the innovation, is tested and evaluated inside the organization, sometimes with customers, sometimes in a research laboratory. The next stage is production, where in the case of obviously a new product, you are physically producing the product. The next stage is positioning it and selling it in the marketplace. The next stage is the adoption and diffusion stage, where the pace at which the innovation is used by users or customers in the marketplace. Another stage is the support and refinement and the improvement of the innovation as customers use it. And then finally, a recreation stage. And the recreation stage is really what happens when you go from version 1.0 to 1.1 or 2.1 or 3.1, and you get improvement in the innovation. And this happens all the time, as you can see with products. So, in summary, most innovation processes can be captured in this generic pattern of steps. And we're going to look at those pattern of steps specifically in our next presentation. But by analyzing this pattern of known innovations, and you can look at particularly any innovation, you can distill out the steps and you can construct an approach for managing a new innovation.